Everyone, RemanX here, and I want to make an important statement. If you guys have been using a DD5 calculator, we brought our gear forecast section back recently, and we're going to be making some adjustments on this because for quite a few people, it probably was a rude awakening. There were some pieces that were clearly unforeseen. There's probably some things that we didn't anticipate, but more importantly, there is a different path to success. Now, remember, when we build these, as a template because we don't think you should equip characters until you're ready to do a full node. Only crazy people will equip a character before they're ready to do a node because things can change. And with the ever-changing character selection here in Marvel Strike Force and the abundant power creep, one thing that can happen relatively quickly is your choices can change. So I'm going to go over kind of my choices here. We're going to talk about the forecast. We're going to talk about the big major change that I want you guys to be aware of if you're starting to work on DD5. And it's a doozy. And so let's get into it right away. So I want to thank Vrondius and Bacon again for all the extra work they put into this. Again, all they do is tell me, hey, Rem, it works like this. And I go, can I break it? And they go, yeah, you just did. So let's fix it up for you. So you'll see that my current choices are reflecting new characters. Ghost Spider and Scarlet Spider are relatively inexpensive with the low cost of 36 mini uniques. I now have the flexibility to kind of position another bio character depending on how events shape out. And I can probably position them in something more like Cosmic if I want to swap out a character, like maybe Lavelle for Gamora. All that being said, we're going to be looking at that, or maybe Invisible Woman for one of the legendaries there. We're going to be digging into why this is important. So we know that it was important to kind of look at your 16 uniques, and we didn't want to have as much overlap there. And we looked at your G16 uniques, and we wanted to look at those there. But what we found was the real bottleneck was actually, well, it was actually the origin gear. So the origin gear wound up holding it back. You can see when we looked at the gear forecast, my current way that I'm doing this is it's scheduling me to complete this about 7 months from now. This being December means that I won't have this done until sometime in May or June. And so that's the idea, is this is actually allocating our current access to resources. We looked at the gear orbs. We looked at the appearance. We had enough data to look at the appearance in the shop. And we found that we found that we had some issues here. And I'll show you how to use this sheet more in depth. I'll have a link to it in the description. All right. So let's talk about the biggest things that are impactful to your access. Now, I'm in a Diamond Alliance doing all 50s for war refreshes. If I have current war currency that access, so they calculate what your accumulated war currency is, and that's factored in here. So once you make this change, even if you don't refresh, if you only have 2,000, it won't make that much of a difference. It's for those people who hoarded. And then we're going to talk about the Doom 2 raid. Okay. The Doom 2 raid has been the most significant impact on duration, on length of time to get in there, because of how we allocated the gear. So don't get nervous. They do make some of that available elsewhere, but you can see the big difference in time because that origin gear is such a bottleneck. So we're going to talk about how to overcome this, because I get it. It's going to feel frustrating for those people who are putting, DD5 off in the horizon and starting their trek towards it. So we're going to start with the most important thing. We added these node farms. I think you want to start considering working the teal nodes into your daily farm. Now, the good news is there's also G15 on a lot of those nodes, so they're not wasted. And you want to farm these frequently enough that they're never an issue. So if you can get them into your daily farm then you're going to be ahead of the game when you start equipping characters. First piece of the puzzle that you're going to need. Second is start buying some of the origin gear from the store. And typically it's going to be that middle piece, the one that is... And again, it may vary based on the person. It's going to be this piece right here. Okay, this piece right here is going to be the most obscure. It's probably at a lower drop rate or lower visibility rate than we've seen, and you need 5 of them to complete the puzzle. The main origin piece seems to be more available through other means, but this piece right here has been typically the one that's been holding people back. That may differ to your roster, and this is why it's important to kind of get an idea of where you're at with this sheet. But what we did was we divided it by section. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like, because there's a farming and shopping list that basically says what's holding you back. So you typically want to identify the pieces of gear that are restricting the number of days of access for the section that you're in. So we broke this down by city. If you can see right here, there's city, and the city section basically has the I have 64 days before I can get in there because of the esoteric glyphs. So those are something that if I see in any frequency, I want to buy up. Arcane Powder, the Vial, Celestial Lattice, and Shogoth Ictor are all things that I want to have because they're definitely holding me back. And so from that perspective, it's a must to identify this so it's easy for you to get a visual means to understand how you're going to get into Dark Dimension 5. So then you're going to see that because of what's holding you back, you can see I'm starting to hit the catalyst portion of this. You can see by that point I'm back to being held back by the mystic nodes, mystic gear, and some of the skill gear. And then we have the glyphs, the focus, and again, this is using average and normalized drop rates, not taking into account the events. We'll try to make a note of what's available through the events so we can determine if that's going to have an impact. But this is, again, based on the drop rates, what to expect for the currency. So my biggest recommendation right now is if you're starting to look at Dark Dimension 5, start looking at the origin gear. It is a major warning as far as equipping it. And so I don't think I have the best team for Dark Dimension 5 because I don't think there's really any essential character that basically is an I win button, because if you look at it, by the time I finish the city nodes, I'm going to be, holding on, trying to get ready for the global nodes by, 30 to more days. So it's definitely something that you need to identify, because understanding that will help you build this. Again, this is not a perfect sheet. The forecasts have been built by us, and we had, I want to say we had 2,700 points of data this time, so enough to identify that, and we had to just back in to some of that. So we're going to have another section here that'll come up in the farming and shopping list that'll allow you to say, or the gear forecast list that'll allow you to say what you're buying from the shop. We'll figure that out if it's just like origin gear and how much you're willing to spend on it daily. So stay tuned. That's another addition we're going to be building on the sheet to hopefully give us another picture. Now we've changed our guidance. Remember, I do things that you don't have to. And I'm going to be testing out Ghost Spider and Scarlet Spider with Cloak and Dagger to see if they make the impact that I hope they do. And love you much. See you soon.